All right, guys, and welcome back to a special edition of Taking Chances, where I've got one of my very good friends. I've been able to say that over the past few years, coming in from Romania. I've got Cosmin Stoica. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. How was your day?
It's going good. I just want to, first of all, on this podcast to thank Cosmin for rolling through some punches with me this week. We've had to reschedule a handful of times, but Cos, full transparency, as we were just catching up before, I've been stoked to have this conversation with you. For the fans that are listening, Cosmin has been one of the key professionals working inside of HC Resource that's really had a chance to evolve his role quite a few times. And Cos, I just want to go back in time a little bit, man. You know, this is a story as I start to laugh talking about how you and I met each other, but just to set some context for the guests, I was living overseas, which I told my American team I'd be gone for about 3 months. I was in Costa Rica, Cos, before I saw you. Happened to fall in love with Laura, my Romanian wife now. And when we first went overseas to live in Romania, waiting for the visa to process, I wasn't about to open and expand a call center when I first met Cosmin. So I'm going to tell the start of the story, Cosmin. I'll kind of let that take over. But Cosmin and I, in the power of networking, actually met each other on a very chance Uber drive. So, I mean, Cos, I want to tell my perspective after, but if you want to just tell the guests a little bit of your perspective of how this cannonball of an American aggressive male came into your life.
So if I were to start at the beginning, it started with a really awful experience. I got stuck 4 days in Heathrow while traveling to Alaska for a contract. I decided it was enough, and after 4 days, I went back to Romania. I decided to do Uber.
Yeah, not to interrupt you, Cos. Was that right before you and I met too? Because I've heard this story from you, but I didn't realize that was right before.
Yeah, that was a few months. I was like 3 months before.
And on that part, just so the fans know too, you were, I believe at the time, you were doing remote work or temporary work in Alaska for fishing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was basically a fisherman in Alaska. Yeah.
Okay, so you're in the visa process, and Heathrow, for my American fans, because you can laugh at this, it's England, just so people know where you're at. So you're staged to go over to the States, get some information while you're there, and that's when you chose to come back to Romania.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
basically what happened.
Okay, keep going with that then, man. So keep going with that perspective.
So I decided to, while waiting to see if I get another chance to get back to Alaska and make some money and save to start a business, I decided to do Uber just to pay the bills and stuff. And that's how we met. Luckily, a dumbass driver decided to do a right turn on 2 lanes. And that's,
Is that how you ended up picking us up that day?
no, that's how we started the conversation.
Well, that's right, because we were getting delayed. So I'll tell you my perspective too. So I'm in the middle of Romania with my wife, and I want to say, Cos, we are maybe there for 3 to 4 months. So my wife is consistently, and Cos, you can add some context if you want. As an American in Romania, let's just say I was one of the most vocal people that folks met in a while. I just think conversations I was having with other folks were probably not culturally as acceptable as I wanted them to be at the time. So I was taking liberty to talk. And what I was first mind blown about, Cosmin, is I didn't realize at the time how many people understood English. So my wife and I are in the back having some complications. I think we were talking about the call center, Cosmin. I don't remember if we were or not. I know it was like a 30-minute Uber ride. Do you remember the context of our convo? We were going through some challenging times of a separation of a key employee. And I just think from my perspective, and we'll go into more of Cosmin's background, just to talk about the power of networking, and Cosmin and I got to film a little bit before this. From my perspective, having a conversation with my wife about a very challenging opportunity in business inside the confines of an Uber, where I felt like no one could hear me besides my wife, speaking the same language. When we got done with that conversation and I pulled off, I think Cosmin turned around and looked back, and you just started joining the conversation about, hey, I used to recruit. And then you and I jumped out. So we can kind of pick up on that, but I think a really good part about I want this to come out is how many times we're in America, Cosmin. Like, talk to me a little bit about Cos pre going overseas. So, like, even how did you build the confidence in yourself as a Romanian? I know a lot of people have some opportunities there, but a lot of people have to create those opportunities. So I'm just curious, like, what first led you to going overseas to even work as a fisherman, or if you can kind of walk me through that origination story of yourself.
So I've been traveling since I was 20 something. I've been to multiple countries. I just always wanted to take a chance. if you just stay in your bubble, you're never gonna learn, never gonna grow. You'll see the world's small, even though it's really fucking big.
Yep.
And it just traveling a lot gives you the opportunity to develop yourself, meet new people, get new experiences, learn about new cultures, stuff like that. So I was before
Curi-
going to Alaska. Yeah,
How
go
many
ahead.
countries have you worked in? Yeah, just curious before we went there, because I've never asked this. How many countries have you worked in, Cosmin, in total?
I think it's probably 5 or 6.
That's amazing. Yeah, let's talk about that perspective too, because even just that's going to be so unique for most of the American guests. I mean, because that takes a lot of confidence, brother. It takes a lot of confidence.
Well, it's either confidence or just stupidity or being young.
A little
It
bit of both helps.
one of the two. So I think it's about 5 countries. I've been in the Netherlands for 2 years. I've worked in Kuwait, which was an interesting experience. I've worked in Germany. I've worked in Italy. I've worked in the UK.
Now,
So there's been a few.
were you doing similar work at all those locations, or what did that look like
It
specifically? Because
was
I
it
got to
was different industries, different work. Just whatever opportunity that I found, just kind of took it. Fun fact, like the place that I worked in Italy, I was 18 or 19, and it was a beautiful place in Sicily, and it's where the cast of The Godfather stayed while filming the second part.
Well, that's a beautiful story too, Cos. And I know some of your background, but when you were in Alaska as well, I mean, were you doing the kind of fishing that like we would see on like some of the reality TV shows? I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm coming in with the assumption that it's a probably a pretty dangerous job. Am I correct in that assumption?
So there's a few facets of that job. There's the guys that are on the boats, catching crabs, salmon, whatever. There's the people on the processing plants. Most of the work that I did was processing and working in the plants. They didn't allow for foreigners to be on those on the big boats because there was liabilities and tons
Yep.
of yeah,
I
tons
was
of
going to take
stuff.
that.
But either
And
way, the work is brutal. Doesn't matter where you are.
well, also, I think just to, maybe folks don't realize this or not, and I'm not even sure with inside of Europe, Cosman, but is it a safe assumption too that with all those travels and relocations, you also needed visas and the right process to be able to work in those locations? Is that a fair assessment?
So I just needed visas for Kuwait and for the US.
Okay.
For
So in the rest of
Kuwait, I was on a travel visa and I was on a work visa in the US.
Okay. So there's complications with that as well. I'm right. And this is what Cosmo and I were talking about, leading into putting an application in and regulation changes. And certainly we can talk about this in another episode with just even immigration, for my wife. But talk to me a little bit about that because I know you had a breadth of what I would say is very creative and also intense kind of jobs to really understand who you were as a person. For me, even some of those endeavors to go from that to recruitment. Talk to me a little bit about your first recruitment job before you landed with AC Resource, because you really landed with a lot more skill sets, even though you're, learning some American culture things. I think you had a lot of the base bone skill sets.
So I started doing recruitment while I was in Holland. It was just blue collar jobs. You would try to find people for warehouses, hourlies mostly.
Okay. So you're getting your feet wet, for lack of a better term, during that process. And I think that's a good transition. So, a great conversation when Cosmo and I have too is, just to talk about the power of networking. I was going through a big transition at the time when Cosmo and I met. Cosmo, sounds like you were going through a big transition as well. And then just both of us having the courage to have an honest conversation and then kind of step into one another, because I would say Cosmin took a big chance on an American guy that he'd never seen before. And I want to say, Cosmin, after that first meeting, because we can kind of pick up there, I think we talked outside of the car. I think my wife was a little frustrated and she's going to see this episode because she's like, you're talking so long. And I want to say we met at our place the same week, right? I think it was within 3 to 5 days where we had our second meeting and we just started talking about which direction we were going to go.
Yeah, I think it was something along those lines.
So talk to the guests a little bit too, just from your perspective, Cosmin, because obviously you saw me in Romania. I mean, there was a 2-year period where I really think you got to use your skill set from, what you build looking for hourly labor, kind of attaching that to hospitality, which I know it was management jobs, but I think, we kind of really threw you into the sourcing. This is going back before we had any automation running. But just talk to the guests a little bit about what you've been impacting in HC Resource and in kind of that 2 year transition of sourcing to recruiting to where we may go.
Well, going into hospitality, that was also a little bit easier because I did work in restaurants in the past, so I was well accustomed to some of the terms. I was accustomed to the work that needed to be done and the people that needed to do those jobs. So it was easier to find them.
You've had a massive impact, Cos, like I said. So, I mean, uh, just to say this, when throwing Cosmin into this role from my perspective is we knew we had a lot of automation coming up. And for folks that are out there listening, part of HC Resources, one of our main vertical is absolutely recruitment. But I would say Cos, we've got two main divisions, tech and hospitality, and you saw this firsthand. Most of the tech division wouldn't touch hospitality, and it was because of the challenging just with time commitments and really the volume that you have to touch to be able to hit that revenue. So I think you've been able to go from a sourcer of just assisting other recruiters into kind of that lead. And, I'll tell my perspective, when you first got here, Cause, I don't think we knew enough about what we were doing to be fully transparent. I think we had a couple of good directors that were really good with their workflows. I think we were playing with automation, but I don't think we had a lot of the systems. And I think what you've helped me do is as well as just having visibility on so many other tools before and even your observations going from sourcing to recruitment today. But you were a huge impact. I mean, did it feel any different from you when I first got back to the States transitioning from sourcing to recruiting? Because I know that was, my perspective there is I don't think we had you in the best seat. I think you could have been way more impactful if you started as a recruiter out of the gate. But I think that's where we're both getting used to each other and also getting used to just the culture difference. Do you have any candid comments to kind of add in about that as far as a source to recruiter?
Probably not. It made it easier to start doing sourcing before recruitment because I got accustomed to the clients. I got accustomed to the candidates and the workflows, so it was just a natural transition that
Is there
happened.
any Is there any difference of recruiting? So first of all, did you do recruitment in Europe? I didn't ask you that specifically. I know it was hourly jobs, but is that where the location was in Europe?
Yeah, it was in Europe.
Was there some nuance changes, with the laws from just recruiting in America to Europe, even though the positions were different? Like, what was your perspective on that?
Well, it's a lot different because at least on our end, we treat people a lot better. Like
Talk
for
to me about
recruitment
that.
companies
Yep.
and the hourly sector in Europe treat people like shit. There's no way around it. I have guys that work, repair airplanes and stuff like that, and they get paid like 70 to 80,000 a year, and they still get treated like shit. So there's not a big difference on the level of treatment that you get depending on how much money they make on you or the level of job that you do.
Gotcha. So it's a little bit more brutal there too. Did you have any challenges with like the American base first talking to them, or was it easier just because you could culturally try to care a little bit more, or was that a bit of an obstacle for you first coming in?
Well, that was never an obstacle. As we know, everything revolves around America. So I was very accustomed with the culture, and I've been speaking English since I was 10. So that was never
You
an
speak
issue
better
for me.
English than You speak better English than some Americans I know, especially depending on how many cocktails they've had, for sure. But so let's talk about the transition then, cause we're going to go back into time before the hurricane for me and when I'm first landed in Florida. Um, Talk to me about that transition of first going into recruitment. I know it was easy, but did you have any hesitation where you're like, man, now I'm going from being behind the scenes to actually interviewing these Americans on calls? I mean, what did if you had any emotions during those time, what did that look and kind of feel like in those first few weeks?
Well, to be honest, that felt like a great opportunity to me because you have the deal where you split everything 50-50 with your team, and that would just made everything much easier. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna do whatever job you need to do. Money makes it a little bit easier, plus the company culture.
Beautiful. So, I mean, it felt, I don't want to make words up for you, but did it feel a little bit like you were going from the passenger seat to the driver's seat in that role?
That was exactly, yeah.
Good, good, man. So, and again, those perspectives. So we're going back in time, guys. We're going back to last year. We had some automation working. I don't think we definitely didn't have Ascendium yet. I don't think we're in the software development. Talk to me just about kind of our workflow, cause, just to go back to what you said, you've been one of the most influential partners that I've ever had work with me on, I would say from your personality of being able to hold me accountable, just you've definitely helped culturally with the team of saying, hey, Shaun, at times you got to be able to have a conversation with him, and it's pretty understanding. But I think you had the confidence to do that, especially as a foreign guy in an American business. That was awesome for me to see. But then I also think the perspectives, going back into time when we first started using GPT, about where you saw the world going, because you really influenced us to be where we're at. I mean, so just tell me about some of that transition from sourcing to recruitment, because I think that gave you instant eyes. You're the only one hitting me up all the time, Cosmo, with maybe some better tools that we can do and some other outside the box stuff. So I just want to kind of get that mindset out, because I think when you're in front of your clients today, that same perspective that you gave to me as the owner of a 7-figure business that's growing in the United States is the same thing that you're giving to the clients. But, how did you kind of see that? Like, I feel like my perspective is you knew the workflows we were trying to do. You knew that automation was coming out, and you really just saw that, probably before most people did, that within 18 months, certain things were going to be done and certain things had to be there. So I'm just curious for you to start talking about that, because I don't think we go through a month, Cosmin, where you haven't sent me 3 to 5 new opportunities and tools, and you just very organically investigate that. So if you can talk about that for a few moments.
Well, that was pretty easy because it wasn't a work that I was accustomed to, just waiting and getting people from different sources. I wanted to be able to find these guys and just be able to interact with them. So the research on those tools came naturally to me, and I found it similar that a lot of people were dealing with the same stuff. So the transitions were pretty natural to the stuff that we're using now and where the world is actually.
Fair assumption to say, or to bundle it up, like your curiosity kind of led you down the right path there. It's just to look outside the box. I'm curious. I know that we can do this better, and I don't want to just be waiting for some action. So, and then you saw some congruences with other recruitment companies and probably internal hiring managers. Is that just to restate what you said?
But yeah, that is correct. Yeah, it was more of curiosity and wanting to do extra work.
So, and I think today, as we sit here, we are, Ascendium is going full blast. I will say this on this podcast, Cosmin, because the episode hasn't released yet. But, Ascendium being the software development wing of AC Resource, we've really taken a stab and are doing pretty well at taking a 17-step workflow, tailor fitting some full HRIS systems, applicant tracking systems with automation. But obviously, we're really focused on this hourly solution, Cos. And, I kind of want to give your perspectives on that. Started off truly for us as a need. We've said this on a few other podcasts. This is, as Cos was saying right now in the start, we don't do hourly recruitment. Operations management is the largest vertical inside of human capital resource. And once we got back into full ops, we just quickly realized that hourly recruiting is a massive need inside of for our own clients. And we couldn't do the traditional model. I mean, I don't know if you remember, Cosmo, there was a couple of weeks where you helped me advance those workflows before I had automation on and kind of setting that up. But as we sit now getting ready to go to staffed, and the position that you sit in, we've really got a suite of services that are coming out. But before we just dive into that, where do you think the world of recruitment is going to be in the next 2 years? And then we can kind of talk about how we're providing that. But I've just seen you as a soothsayer of the whole workflow is going to change. So what does that look like from your perspective? And I know we're changing some of it ourselves, but just
Well, to be honest, I think the world of recruitment is still going to be there. It's just going to be different transitions. I think hourly work is going to be more and more needed because people are going to struggle to make ends meet and are going to need a second job, especially in America. Europe, I think, is a little bit safer for that. In hospitality specifically, there is a need for a tool that provides more value than others because the margins are so low.
All right, Cos, and I got to be honest with you, man. I really agree with you. So let's talk just a little bit about how this tech came into vision, and then we can talk a little bit more about what we're doing with staff. But for a lot of the folks that follow this show and some of the folks that follow Shift Happens, you know that we've got some hourly tech that's coming out that's pretty smashing. But I want to be transparent with everyone too. This wasn't an idea that we really entered to think about. So, I mean, what Cosmin and I were talking about originally is just the need for hourly recruitment. But for two of the ops management clients that HC Resource represents, you know, we really got into a pickle where we couldn't get them staffed. They had a manager, so they hired us to do risk mitigation. They had a lot of opportunities with profit and loss and sales and you name it. But at the base bones of that cause, and you and I know this, the hourly teammates are the front and center, right? So we just could not keep hourlies going. Here I am owning a recruitment company, and the only person that could really help me was Cosmin. And Cosmin, just to talk to you a little bit about this too, like everyone else was just wanting more revenue than I could charge the clients, you know? So I think this is where Cos and I first came about, but I'll kick it over to you after just a couple seconds, Cos. I think, you know, the thing that I wanted to showcase for you on this call is you influenced me to create this technology a lot more. I mean, so if we go back just to think about what we learned from recruitment as far as managers go, and then what changes as far as we go to hourlies, meaning, yeah, we have to vet a lot more, but there's a lot more candidates applying to every rec. So it's really about volume and visibility for this. So I think what Cosmin and I got really good at doing was first coaching the client into a workflow that was needed for them, right? So just to talk about some of the consistencies on the background. But then Cosmin got really good at doing, you know, we'll share some of the secrets, Cosmin, low bids to get candidates coming in, then to pull those candidates from those job boards into their applicant tracking system that they owned. So I don't know if you just want to talk and give a couple notes on that, Cos, but, you know, essentially just, I know you and I didn't feel like we were recreating the wheel, but the number one opportunity that hospitality operators have is they usually don't have enough time to go back. So like in this case study, they had a lot of candidates applying. They just weren't advancing them and following through. But I didn't know if you wanted to give any notes on that. And then we can definitely talk a little bit more about where we're going with this tech.
Well, in all fairness, to the people that are in the stores, hospitality is a fire dumpster that always keeps piling up, and you never have enough time to talk to the people that you need to hire. So it's easy for someone to slip through the cracks when you don't have another staff member organizing interviews for you. And you can't charge a client the same money that you're going to charge for an hourly for a manager. So
Yeah.
that's where this tool comes in for us and for the hospitality clients that we're going to target.
And I think what was really cool from your perspective, Cosmin, is, you know, so we're developing a fully automated platform that's really going to extend the reach of recruitment companies. But I think that's where you had visibility of saying, hey, Shaun, so let's narrow this down, right? Because even we'll talk about the two units. So we've got a unit, this group that we're talking about, we've got one unit in Northern Indiana, another unit in Southern Indiana, same brand, very different pain points, right? I mean, so very well ran, but different pain points, what they need as recruitment. And I think the visibility that you gave us is we needed great copy as far as it went into the South location. We need a great copy to pull the data from Indeed over, but then also some scheduling components and some SMS components. So I think the thing that was awesome from my perspective is you were able to see that 17-step workflow and say, let's take 3 pieces of this and let's start putting these nodes into this technology for hourly recruitment and let's see how it goes. But I'm curious just to ask you if that's how it kind of came to your fruition, because I feel like you touched so many facets of recruitment before. You really helped me pick those facets that we had to put into this stack to really make it ready for market.
Well, yeah, it was an easy fix for the South Indiana location because of the market that's in. Especially being a well-run restaurant and in a very rich area, you'll still need to have people that come in for jobs, even if they don't need it and they just want to try it out. So it's a different type of content and a different type of way to connect to those people rather than the other location where it's a bigger spot, bigger revenue, but you need different kind of people to run that store.
Yeah, and it's crazy to see that in the same market, the same brand, right? So I would say we have The northern location has a lot of volume of applicants, and what they were struggling with is really, the GM's conversation with Cosmin and I is, hey, if I see one more manager sitting down with a bartender that can't work on the weekends, I'm going to pull out my freaking hair. So basically he was just like, they're getting by the assessments on Indeed. Why are they doing this? And you and I both know that it's not really a candidate and it's not really a hiring manager opportunity. Just the whole workflow has changed so much. It kind of makes chaos on both ends. And I think you and I have been talking to hiring managers for the last 2 to 3 years as far as it goes to management. So we were well versed in that conversation. And then I think the other piece that you and I've always been aware of is just, hey, this contingent model in America is kind of broken, meaning like most clients, I mean, just to say this out loud, guys, I own a recruitment company. It is obscene that some people are paying 25% of an annualized salary if they need 3 to 4 hires a month. So typically what you see is, even if a recruitment company is great, they usually outprice their client. So we've been trying to come in, the dirty word in recruitment is retainer. So we've really been focusing on some subscription models and really just the technology of eliminating the need for sourcing and eliminating the need for scheduling. Because I think if we really sum up everything we're doing, Cosmin, I know there's a lot of steps, but I feel like those are the two shoulders of the business that we're attacking. It takes a lot of time to find people and schedule them. Then it takes a lot of time to follow them back up. And we feel confident of automating those portions. I mean, would you say the same thing kind of back?
Well, yeah, definitely 25%, 20 to 25% is very steep, especially in the industry that we're in hospitality. It might be a good number for tech or for manufacturing, where the need is much higher and there's more money in the industry. But in hospitality, every cent matters, every egg matters. So it's normal to do this.
Well, I guess what I would say from my perspective, Cos, just being in the space for a while and also doing it in Europe, I think the 25% contingent is great for a client, great for a recruitment company if it's like a one hitter, right? Like, so if you've got a really good internal talent acquisition team and you're trying to hire a very specific role and you're just struggling to find it, I mean, shoot, Cos, I think that model's still great, but I think what happens is buyer's remorse comes in on both ends. And then, being a recruiter, contingent is contingent upon success fees. But the average recruiter, and we don't do this, but the average recruiter is going to carry 6 to 17 contingent relationships. So meaning that recruiter is going to be motivated more by the success. So if clients have great workflows, if they're really good with employer branding and getting people into the process, we tend to gravitate towards those. And where I think that we can do better is on both sides, right? Like the clients and also the companies, for the folks out there that utilize recruitment as a path forward for growth. And cause we know these, we don't have to talk about them. We work with a lot of them. I think, moving some of those to a more bite-sizable, consumable budget while giving them technology to actually help with, help with scheduling, help with scraping. And then let's be honest, I mean, where we're really different as approaching is we will have a platform at the end, but the stage that Ascendium is in is with API access, we can really connect to those outbound boards that all of our clients are working on and their internal ATSs. And I think you'd resonate with this, Cosmo. We both know from working in the manager roles and the C-level roles that a lot of times when we get access to those platforms, the candidates that the clients are looking for, they've already contacted. Like, just to go back to what you said, because it's not just a hospitality problem. I mean, shoot, Cause, you touch accounting, you touch tech. I don't think it's as bad in accounting and tech, but I think a lot of these problems that we see also live there. So just curious to see your perspective on that.
Well, that is fair. And on the retainer side, it's such a dirty word, but
Yes.
everyone loves a retainer when they need a lawyer and he's on call in the next 30 seconds and he has a solution for your issue. So that's going to be the same thing in hospitality. People and business owners are going to be afraid that they're going to pay a premium and they're not going to use that service. But it's going to be nice when you have a candidate walking in 2 days after you posted a need. And with
Also, yeah, keep going. I love it.
I just wanted to say that what we have to offer now, that's never going to be money wasted. So,
Well, and I think the way that we're deploying these models this year, Cos, and it's probably the first time we're talking publicly, but we want to be able to facilitate a relationship at the same price or 15% below what a talent acquisition manager would be brought in at. So meaning, we really look for partnerships in our company, Cos, and you and I both know this. We're not trying to be the largest recruitment company because ops management is our number one vertical, but we absolutely love helping growing brands. So I think what this is going to look like this year is, really getting in front of some of the right clients and, for sure, some of the ones we've been working with are converting over to this model, but it's about the same kind of retainer that you're talking about. We pay an annual retainer for our attorney every year. I love the years where we don't have to use it, but the years when we absolutely need it, it is great to know that in 5 seconds I make a phone call, it's paid, it's ready to go, and it's just something that gives us a little bit of confidence. So for the hiring managers and the owners out there, Kaz and I are going to be going live quite a bit. We are probably 2 weeks away from releasing the first technology from Ascendium at market. Not going to release the name right now, but Kaz, I know you and I have been talking about this, pretty excited for some platforms. I don't want to put you on the spot, Kaz, because I think we both know, just to showcase some of the internal things, I think we're really trying to differentiate and not become a platform. I think you and I both know that becoming a platform is probably the easiest way for our own revenue. But I think as long as we don't lose focus that we can do a better job for clients and clients can receive better talent acquisition help across the board in the States, as long as we just start talking about approaching those two shoulders, meaning sourcing, finding candidates, and then scheduling them and following back up are hands down the two largest cost drivers for both clients and recruitment companies. So I think as long as we don't lose focus on that, Cosmin, we're really going to be able to disrupt this industry a little bit this year. Do you have any comments or things to leave the guests for? Because Kaz, I love this conversation with you. I am planning on pulling you live on a lot of these webinars as we get the tech out, because I think that's where you're really going to shine. But anything you want to leave the guests for before we take off and get another session scheduled?
Well, that's where this tool is gonna hit the soft spot. You'll get the same quality that you get from an actual person for a fraction of the cost, and with that, it benefits that it saves you hours of labor in the restaurants, and it saves you hours of recruitment labor.
And thousands of dollars on advertisement too. Cause that's a great give back to me, because what I was just aligning on was HC Resources process. What Cosmin is talking about is this tech is going to hit the market at $250 to $500 a unit. So that is way below the price of an internal talent acquisition manager. So, Cos, I really enjoyed this conversation. For anybody that's out there struggling with recruitment, talent acquisition, or just systems analytics, I'm going to set you guys up with Cosmin. Cos, great to see you. We're going to showcase all your socials below, and I will let the guests know the next time we're going to have some webinars. So just leave the guests with a little bit of ways to find you, my friend.
Well, it was a pleasure to be a part of the conversation, Shaun. People can find us at hcresource.com, or they can find us at my LinkedIn page at Cosmin Stoica.
We'll get those listed below, my friend. But I'm just super excited for this year, and I think it's going to be great to see some Romanian personality talking about disrupting American workflows. But I appreciate the conversation, my friend.
I appreciate the time, Shaun, and it's going to be fun.